Then Mayor Ballard was about to leave office in the late 1980s, and Ed Miller was elected as our new mayor. The two of them had a lot of conversations about how we're going to address this problem. And Bruce Ballard had a general idea of also that hopefully a community group could come forward and do something to more actively and aggressively promote economic development in the community, mostly from a job growth standpoint, because the object was to try and generate some income tax revenue for the city. And as we looked at the Finley example, we looked at Defiance, Ohio, believe it or not, that also had a lot of success at that time, and Archbold, oddly enough. And the reason we looked at Archbold is not so much because of what they were doing, but because their claim to fame was they had more jobs than people. And so with those examples, we had a couple of community meetings. Maybe you saw on some of the old files that we've got around. We held a meeting at the Bowling Green High School cafeteria that a couple hundred people came to, where we presented an idea of a private organization to do this kind of work, to demonstrate that it could be done, that it could be successful.
Well, I remember that I think Mike Marsh and Dick Newlove, as well as people from the city, had a good idea who to contact. At the time, it wasn't unusual for the banks to be involved in larger fundraising efforts or anything to do with economic development, because the banks are interested in seeing the community grow, because if they grow, they tend to grow. So they were organizations that were contacted early. Concerned citizens that have an interest in the community were contacted about this. And then just businesses in general who might not be able to make that initial larger lump sum contribution, but on an annual basis could contribute.
The story is true that Mike Marsh and I sat at the back of Kermit's in a booth one day, and on a napkin sort of put together a hit list of people that we were going to go to, because we were asking for, I think, pledges of $10,000 over 3 years. You're talking 25 years ago. Not that that's chicken feed today, but it was that, you know, that was some fairly serious money to go around and ask people for. So Mike and I sat down and put a list together, and we got a few folks to help us. Remember Bob Spittler was in very early, both with his law firm, and he was the chairman of the board at the old First Federal Wood County at the time, and they came on board. Ted Green was the president of State Savings on South Main. He was in very early. Obviously, Bill Culberson was very important to it. The banks generally were pretty supportive, and I think we got maybe 9, 10, a dozen people to make these pledges, and so that's basically how we got started.